Next, we're going to consider proposed resolution 21-0324, the Director of the Department of Forensic Sciences, Jennifer Smith, confirmation resolution of 2015. The resolution was introduced on September 18, 2015 by the chairman at the request of the mayor. This resolution will confirm the appointment of Dr. Jennifer Smith as the Director of the Department of Forensic Sciences for a 4-year term. Dr. Smith has been actively involved in developmental research efforts concerning the analysis of human DNA since 1990 when she joined the FBI laboratory as a DNA analyst. Her research efforts focus on improvement of human DNA typing methods used in modern forensics laboratories. Additionally, Dr. Smith spent 4 years on a joint duty assignment to the Central Intelligence Agency, where she was the chief of the Biological Technology Center, expanding her interest into the developing field of microbial forensics. In 2011, Dr. Smith was awarded the CIA's McCone Award, named for the CIA director who established the Directorate of Science, and given to individuals that demonstrate deep technical expertise, disciplined program management, and responsiveness to mission. She previously headed the biological subgroup of the U.S. government's Weapons of Mass Destruction Attribution Policy Working Group that developed guidance for the Attribution Implementation Plan. She was also a member of the Office of the President's National Science and Technology Council's Microbial Forensic Task Force. This group was responsible for the creation of the U.S. National Research and Development Strategy for Microbial Forensics and the subsequent U.S. National Microbial Forensic Implementation Plan. As current member of the Director of the National Intelligence Biosciences Expert Group and the Biochemistry 2020 Science Expert Group, her research continues to support closure of gaps in analytical capability in this evolving field. With that, we're going to turn to our public witnesses. If we could have Linda C. Harrison come forward. Michael Syndrome, again, is signed up to testify. I do not see him present in the hearing room. If we could have Dr. Mitchell. Dr. Roger Mitchell is the Director of the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. You can come forward. Thank you. And Dr. Mitchell, I'm going to have to have you raise your right hand and swear you in since you are a government official. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give to the Committee on the Judiciary is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you very much, sir. And good morning to you. Good morning to you both. And we'll begin with Ms. Harrison. Thank you for being here. There you go. Your mic wasn't on, but it's on now. You don't have to worry about it. We turned it on for you. Thanks.
I need my 7 seconds back.
It's fine. I'm sorry.
So I need my time back.
Oh, no, you got it.
Reset my time?
Make sure you get your full 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairperson McDuffie. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of Dr. Jennifer Smith. My name is Linda Harrison, and I'm a retired special agent of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. During my FBI career, I spent 5 years assigned to the FBI laboratory as an examiner in the forensic serology and DNA analysis units, and that is where my association with Dr. Smith began. In my dealings with Dr. Smith during the 5 years we worked together in the lab, it became obvious to me that she was well suited to take on a leadership role in the laboratory. She was well educated and extremely intelligent. I found her to have the ability to effectively deal with a variety of different personality types working both in and outside of the lab. An examiner has to be able to deal with other examiners, technicians, prosecutors, defense attorneys, and judges from various court systems all over the country, as well as law enforcement officials from tiny agencies in the middle of nowhere, all the way to major state and local police departments and federal agencies. Dr. Smith always exhibited the ability to interact with all of these individuals in a cool, calm, and collected manner. She exudes confidence and possesses stellar interpersonal skills. There is much more required to be a successful manager in a forensic lab than having the book knowledge one needs to understand the science being used in laboratory testing and court testimony. To this end, I have always been impressed with Dr. Smith's managerial skills. During my professional life, I have run across managers who were reluctant to face personnel issues head-on and seemed to prefer sweeping difficult situations under the rug for the next manager to handle. Dr. Smith did not avoid these difficult situations. She was never condescending in dealing with personnel issues, but would address problems in a straightforward manner. She did not put individuals down, but would look for solutions to help them address their issues and move on. However, if a problem dictated a more stringent solution, Dr. Smith would take the actions needed to resolve the situation, even if it meant having to do something unpleasant, such as letting an employee go. In addition to my professional dealings with Dr. Smith, we have become close personal friends. She is a devoted mother, wife, and daughter. Dr. Smith's grandfather was a chemistry professor at the Pennsylvania State University for many years, and one of Dr. Smith's proudest moments was when she became a professor of forensic science at Penn State, following in her grandfather's footsteps. Dr. Smith is involved with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society and has participated in their team in training to raise money for the society in memory of her niece Ashley, who succumbed to leukemia as a teenager. In closing, I would like to say that the District of Columbia is extremely fortunate to have found an individual of Dr. Smith's caliber to serve as director of their Department of Forensic Sciences. She will bring her years of expertise and scientific knowledge to the laboratory, as well as the clarity to see through everyday situations and those unforeseen circumstances which are bound to happen, which is even more important. Dr. Smith has the innate managerial capabilities needed to be successful, as well as the ability to deal with individuals from all walks of life with diplomacy and grace. I heartily recommend Dr. Jennifer Smith for the position of Director of Forensic Sciences for the District of Columbia, and urge the members of the committee to vote in favor of PR 21-324 to confirm Dr. Smith as the next director. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Harrison. So I see you probably had timed yourself and knew you needed a full 3 minutes for that. Was it?
Probably more than once.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Dr. Mitchell.
Good afternoon, Chairman McDuffie and Committee on the Judiciary. I am Dr. Roger A. Mitchell, Jr., Chief Medical Examiner for the District of Columbia, and I'm proud to testify today on behalf of Dr. Jennifer Smith in her confirmation as Director for the Department of Forensic Sciences. I met Dr. Smith 18 years ago during her service at the Federal Bureau of Investigation. There she served as the Unit Chief of the DNA Analysis Unit, one of the first women to hold such a position. The FBI DNA laboratory was going through a transition during that time. FBI agents were being replaced by civilian scientists, and the laboratory was undergoing accreditation. It was under her direction and leadership that the Bureau trained civilian scientists to replace the outgoing agents. I was one of those civilian forensic scientists hired by Dr. Smith during that time. Her strong but personable approach worked well with both the veterans of the unit and those of us that were new forensic scientists, resulting in accreditation. I highlight this because the Department of Forensic Science is not in a dissimilar position. The DNA laboratory is being approved upon and brought back online. The crime scene unit, which is intended to grow, is transitioning civilians into roles previously held by officers. And there is a new culture being ushered in where scientific independence and service of stakeholders go hand in hand. Dr. Smith is not new to these types of challenges. Although I left the FBI 2 years after my arrival to pursue a career in forensic medicine, Dr. Smith and I kept in touch over the years. I watched as her career took her places where only a handful of forensic scientists have gone before. She served as her country, applying her forensic knowledge to not only the FBI Weapons of Mass Destruction Intelligence Analysis section, but also to the work being done by the Biological Technology Center within the Directorate of Science and Technology for the CIA. Dr. Smith and I reconnected when she served as faculty and professor at Penn State. I lectured several of her classes, encouraging young people to pursue careers in forensic medicine. I would not have guessed then that years later, in April 2015, when our DNA laboratory came under scrutiny and I was named interim director of the Department of Forensic Sciences, that she would respond to the call to advise the district as to the future and stability of our DNA laboratory. Since May 2015, Dr. Smith has assisted in ensuring that DFS passed the follow-up site visit conducted by ANAB, the accreditation body, helped us improve our relationship with stakeholders, and developed a path forward for our DNA laboratory in the form of training and transparency. Quite frankly, I think during her time as a consultant, she fell in love with the job. I would venture to say she fell in love with the people and with the city. Repeated conversations with her revealed to me that she wanted to serve the District of Columbia beyond the DNA unit to make a difference in the lives of the district's citizens. She is a forensic scientist and has said to me on numerous occasions that it's still about solving cases. So I must say I'm excited that Mayor Bowser saw in Dr. Smith the potential for a fresh start and chose her to lead the future of forensic sciences in the district. I know that under her continued leadership, the Department of Forensic Sciences will serve as a great partner to the Metropolitan Police Department, to the Public Defender Service, to the United States Attorney General, to the Office of the Attorney General, and not least of which, to the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. It would be truly an honor to continue to be able to call her a colleague. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, Dr. Mitchell, and thank you, Ms. Harrison, for taking the time out to provide testimony on behalf of Ms. Smith. I do want to, I don't have very many questions. I haven't had the opportunity to work with Ms. Smith for quite some time. I am very familiar with her and her work. I do have questions for her. I would just ask, because, Ms. Harrison, you've had an opportunity to work with her, as you mentioned in your testimony. What are some of the qualities that you think will serve Ms. Smith well if confirmed as director of DFS? What stands out to you in your experience?
I believe there are many, many people that have the technical expertise and have the knowledge to function in a managerial position. But what has really struck me about Dr. Smith over the years is her ability to manage and deal with people. And that's a huge part of being successful in a position like that. You might know your stuff, but if you can't get the people that work for you and with you to be willing to take on those responsibilities, then you're sunk. And I think her real strong point is her ability to deal with people in all different situations, to respond to unforeseen circumstances, as I mentioned in my testimony. She just has a real knack and an innate ability to relate to all types of people to get the job done well.
And Dr. Mitchell, you've had an opportunity to serve in an interim over at DFS. Ms. Harrison just mentioned something that she thinks and I think are very important in the person who manages and heads the DFS. Well, what do you think about that quality to be able to work with people, individuals with different personalities, different backgrounds?
I think that it's critical to be able to do such a thing, to be able to be that type of manager. Dr. Smith is that type of manager. She has those qualities. There's no doubt about it. What also strikes me as important, and it's important not to discount the fact that she's truly a forensic scientist. That she's not a manager only, that she knows the stuff of what she's managing. And I think that's important in a crime lab, that there's direction surrounding the science that can come from all the way to the top, that you can look at the most complex of cases and help to make a decision, or if not, make a decision. And one of the other qualities about her that I find important, especially as a colleague and another director, is the decisive nature in which she can make decisions, and allowed to be able to assimilate that information quite quickly, bring in information from those around her, and incorporate that information into a decision. And I think that's important, and especially in the culture that we live in today.
You mentioned in your testimony, and you just reiterated that she is a forensic scientist. And you mentioned that on page 3, and you said, and has said to you on numerous occasions, that it's still about solving cases. And I appreciate that you emphasize that, and probably don't fully appreciate the way that you all do, given that's not my background, why you emphasize that quality that she has. I think it sounds like it's extremely important to make sure that she is a forensic scientist, and that it is still about solving cases, and that she brings that technical expertise to the job. I do think part of it, obviously a big part of her role is going to be to manage the entire agency. Additionally, it's going to be to manage relationships with outside stakeholders who have to work with the lab. Talk to me, if you could, and either of you could answer that. What qualities she has that you're aware of to be able to perform in that role, to be able to manage with external stakeholders who have to interact pretty routinely with DFS in the work.
When I worked with Dr. Smith in the laboratory, that was really the crux of what we did. We did the forensic science, we examined the evidence, we issued reports, but the crux of it was getting that information out to the public. And the first step would be to be able to work with prosecutors or defense attorneys, depending on where the case was going. We worked with both to deal with the judges, to deal with other examiners in the laboratory, to deal with other lab directors. I mean, that really was the crux of what we did. The science was a big part of it, but if you couldn't get the information out in a usable manner to be used in a court of law, then it was all for naught. And we dealt with all kinds of individuals in those testimonies, and she is extremely able to deal with other people in a very straightforward manner.
Yeah, I mean, I would reiterate that one of her accomplishments while in the FBI was to set aside examiners specifically for District of Columbia cases, and this is when the FBI was getting its DNA services from the Bureau. And that primarily was to make sure that those relationships were developed and that there was continuity of communication with the stakeholders. And so since she's been at DFS, both as a consultant and now as the acting director, she has highlighted the need to communicate with stakeholders. And she's doing it, right? So even now, she's communicating with all of the stakeholders, ensuring that the needs are met of the stakeholders by balancing the independence of the laboratory and the scientific integrity. And I think that the communication model that she uses, that open communication model where, you know, whether it's the Attorney General or the U.S. Attorney can pick up the phone and call her directly and have conversations, as well as their assistants that are in charge of particular bureaus in their hierarchy can call her directly and call her staff and work with her general counsel to get these types of things done, is already being done in a way that has improved upon the department.
I don't have any additional questions for either of you. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we call up the nominee? Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
You can hear from Dr. Jennifer Smith. I'm sorry, I probably should have caught you before you sat down, Ms. Smith. If you don't mind standing, since you're in a acting capacity, I have to swear you in, and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give to the Committee on Judiciary is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. And you can begin your testimony whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chairperson McDuffie, council members, and guests. I am honored to sit before you to discuss my plans for the district's Department of Forensic Sciences, also known to many as our crime lab. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank retired FBI Special Agent Linda Harrison for her supportive comments this morning. We've been colleagues and friends since she was my mentor at the FBI laboratory for over 25 years ago. And I'd also like to thank Dr. Roger Mitchell, not only for his remarks today, but for the 3 months he spent decisively leading the Department of Forensic Sciences while also serving as the district's chief medical examiner. His astute observations formed recommendations that provided a firm foundation to which I anchored my initial goals for the Department of Forensic Sciences. As you will recall, last April, Mayor Bowser, following recommendations from the ANSI-ASCU National Accreditation Board, moved swiftly to suspend DNA testing within the department's forensic biology unit. I was hired shortly thereafter as a consultant to review the situation and to develop a path to reopen the unit. I was thrilled to be able to tap into my 30 years of experience in forensic DNA testing, as well as tactical and strategic program management, to lend assistance to the district. I was no stranger to tackling similar challenges that faced the department. My career as a forensic scientist began following receipt of my undergraduate and graduate degrees in biochemistry, when I was hired by the FBI as their first female special agent with a doctoral degree. Initially assigned to the Baltimore field office, I worked a wide variety of investigations to include bank robberies, kidnappings, and white-collar crimes. These initial years gave me an enduring appreciation of what police professionals are charged with doing: gathering information and evidence to crack cases, often possessing little lead information and carrying large caseloads. So to our MPD colleagues, officers, and detectives, I not only understand, I can relate. My second assignment was as an examiner within the serology unit of the FBI laboratory. There, I analyzed hundreds of DNA cases to include numerous serial rapes and murders, and high-profile cases such as the Unabomber and Oklahoma City bombing investigations. I testified in hundreds of trials and admissibility hearings throughout the United States concerning DNA methods and results. Eventually, as unit chief, I implemented several new DNA methods, established quality assurance and control standards for the forensic DNA community, and led the DNA unit through their first successful ASCLD lab accreditation. Following the tragedies of 9/11, the FBI determined that closer collaboration with other national security agencies was vital, and as such, I became one of the first FBI detailees to the CIA, where I served as chief of the Biological Technology Center. This experience exposed me to the methodologies utilized to analyze potential threats associated with biological warfare and terrorism. I returned to the FBI for my final management assignment. I was selected into the Department of Justice's Senior Executive Service to serve as Section Chief of the Intelligence and Analysis Section in the FBI's Weapons of Mass Destruction Directorate. Throughout all of these management experiences, I not only had to direct, guide, and manage my units and sections through change and adversity, but to produce sound test results to inform critical decisions affecting public safety and national security. Following my retirement from the FBI, I returned to my alma mater, Penn State, as a professor and a research scientist within their forensic science program. Last May, as you heard, Dr. Mitchell contacted me to see if I would be available to act as DNA consultant following the self-suspension of DNA testing in the forensic biology unit. I immediately agreed to take on this task. I was asked to determine the cause of the issues within the unit and to develop an aggressive plan that would not only ensure that DNA testing was brought back online, but that this unit had a strong foundation, sound leadership, and state-of-the-art tools to interpret complex DNA mixtures. An internal review team was formed. It consisted of DFS Deputy Director of Training Brittany Graham, DFS Deputy Director of Quality Karen Wiggins, and an outside consultant, Dr. Kate Tyson. A root cause analysis was conducted and the following management recommendations were implemented. Number one, split the management responsibility between a unit manager and a technical leader. Number two, create an intensive 6-month training program to provide foundational knowledge and build competency required for successful implementation of improved DNA profile interpretation practices. Number three, engage outside experts as faculty. Dr. John Buckleton, Dr. Bruce Bedoli, Dr. Fred Beaver, and Dr. Simone Gittleson were my recommendations. Implement STR-Mix, a software tool that can help resolve difficult mixed DNA profiles that would be considered too complex to interpret manually. And number five, empower the FBU analysts to conduct their own validation studies, write new SOPs, and implement a DNA-specific laboratory information management system. The position for director of the department was posted, and I decided to apply for 3 reasons: supportive executive management, the opportunity to work with forensic scientists at DFS, and the fact that I would be facing familiar challenges. I had observed Mayor Bowser's determination to support critical changes in the department by making decisive personnel actions and providing necessary contingency funding to address and mitigate the initial DNA lab problems. These are critical ingredients for successful organizational change. My initial experience working with the dedicated professionals of the remaining DFS management team convinced me that leading this organization through change would be rewarding. Finally, turning an organization around, ensuring that the department lived up to its statutory mission to produce high-quality, timely, accurate, and unbiased forensic science using the best technology and practices with the overall goal of enhancing public health and safety was a familiar task that I could embrace. On July 17th, I was announced as acting director and immediately convened an all-staff meeting to share my 30-day plan to strengthen communication and collaboration between the department and key agencies, while maintaining our scientific integrity and independence. Emphasize strong management and fiscal responsibility, and conduct and deliver the highest quality testing and results. In the first 100 days following my appointment, members of the DFS staff have rolled up their sleeves, pitched in, and made significant progress on several of my initial goals. We have accomplished nearly all of the tasks outlined in the DNA Corrective Action Plan. We created and filled 2 key positions. Our new DNA technical leader started last week, and the new unit manager begins next week. The analysts have completed their training and have entered the assessment phase of the program, consisting of written and oral examinations to be followed by moot court testing. In December, ANAB, the accrediting group, will return to conduct an external audit of our validation studies and our new protocols and procedures. We have proactively addressed both external and internal communication issues. We have openly engaged several of our external stakeholders and improved utilization of our laboratory facilities and staffing assignments. Over the past weeks, I have met with Dr. LaQuandra Nesbitt, Director of the Department of Health, Channing Phillips, United States Attorney, Avis Buchanan, Director of the Public Defender Service, Carl Racine, Attorney General for the District, Chief Kathy Lanier of the Metropolitan Police Department, and several other department customers and partners. We now hold weekly case review meetings with our stakeholders to ensure case needs are met in a timely fashion, and analysts are encouraged to discuss case status with critical customers. I have also improved internal communications by holding weekly manager meetings and monthly all-staff meetings. These have assisted with tactical and strategic budget and performance planning. I have met with the Science Advisory Board on 2 occasions, most recently on October 2nd. I have stressed that the department will be transparent in our communication with our board, our stakeholders, and the public. We have launched a new procedure for handling complaints and inquiries, whether they are lodged by either internal or external sources. We have also conducted internal training concerning establishment of a quality culture. DFS employees have participated in training related to awareness and appreciation for the quality assurance requirements of ISO 17025, root cause analysis, and determination of appropriate measures needed to address corrective actions. We have successfully launched a Laboratory Information Management System, or a LIMS. This electronic repository and tracking system is an essential tool to capture meaningful metrics concerning laboratory efficiency and effectiveness. When the laboratory opened, DFS scientists were using Excel spreadsheets and Microsoft Access products to track evidence submission and test results. These programs did not provide the seamless, real-time, robust data and effective evidence tracking the lab of our size demands. Upon my arrival, and only due to the help of a dedicated team of IT-savvy scientists, our LIMS was effectively launched on October 1st. I intend to use the system to provide meaningful insight concerning the productivity of all units within the laboratory. Over the last few months, I've worked closely with Kevin Donahue, Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice, to identify additional resource needs for the department to effectively take part in the Safer DC Streets campaign. Through the mayor's leadership, the department will receive $8 million in additional funding for FY16. Approximately half of the mayor's supplemental budget that was proposed to and approved by the council will be used to alleviate backlogs in the Forensic Laboratory Division, and the other half will provide 31 term positions for crime scene scientists for the Crime Scene Science Division. The third division of the Department of Forensic Sciences is the Public Health Laboratory that conducts a variety of testing in support of public health decision makers. Capabilities within this laboratory include West Nile surveillance, influenza monitoring, and select agent and toxin testing that includes anthrax, plague, and nerve agents. Most recently, our public health laboratory worked with officials from the Department of Health concerning a salmonella outbreak at the Fig and Olive restaurant. It was our public health laboratory's work that provided the CDC and FDA with the information that led to a determination of a national Fig and Olive outbreak. I am committed to doing everything I can to restore the public's trust and confidence in the department and improve upon our work. My vision for the department is to be independent but not detached, ensuring transparency concerning issues raised by all stakeholders, to have foresight with insight concerning both productivity and quality, to deliver exceptional forensic science to inform public safety and health decision-making, to have fiscally responsible leaders who engage, empower, and inspire using best management practices, to provide superior training, infrastructure, tools, and resources to ensure all employees successfully accomplish the DFS mission, and to maintain a diverse workforce, collegially blending youthful enthusiasm with exceptional wisdom. Now, I'm not alone in this mission. 3 women especially, Yiru Chen, Chief Operating Officer, Brittany Graham, Deputy Director for Training and Development, and Karen Wiggins, Deputy Director for Quality, have worked tirelessly since April to guide and advise me during this critical transition. They remain from the original management team, and their perspectives have been invaluable, shaping much of the information presented to you today. They continue to shoulder additional management responsibilities while I strive to fill critical divisional leadership positions. I also must recognize the efforts of my general counsel, Rob Hildum, who has been a constant guide for me. His legal savvy and consummate professionalism have successfully closed communication gaps between critical customers. I'm also fortunate to have enlisted the assistance of Dr. Kate Tyson as my deputy director. She is fully utilizing her years of experience in quality assurance at the FBI laboratory as she leads the effort to enhance and strengthen the department's quality culture. The image of the department has been greatly improved by the tireless work of LaShawn Beeman, our Director of Communications. Her efforts have dramatically improved our external image and our internal morale. Finally, I wish to end with my personal thanks to the women and men who choose to come to work every day at the Department of Forensic Sciences. The work they provide directly impacts public safety and public health, yet they anonymously not seeking public attention. They experienced tremendous uncertainty this summer, but this did not deter them from their critical mission. Their support and commitment has been steadfast and unwavering. By working with them, I believe our mission is within reach and attainable. The statute mandates it, the mayor expects it, and our stakeholders and crime victims deserve it. I am here to ensure that the district's crime lab is a world-class laboratory. The council and this committee, led by you, Chairman McDuffie, have been key allies in this endeavor, and I appreciate your continued efforts to ensure our agency operates efficiently and effectively. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today, and I look forward to answering any questions you may have.
Thank you for your testimony, Dr. Smith. I do have some questions, and I'm going to begin with the standard questions that I've asked of all the nominees so far today. Are you a district resident, and if confirmed, do you intend to reside in the district for the entirety of your appointment?
I am not currently, but I plan to move here in January.
Okay. Is that, typically it's 180 days, is that the time when you plan to move, is that within the 180
Yes,
days?
it is.
Okay. And hopefully you're looking at Ward 5. I'm not sure if you decided just yet, but
I'm
Just wanted to
completely
throw that out
open
there.
for any suggestions that anyone has. I'm so excited.
have you been or are you a member of any district government board or commission?
I am not.
Are you an attorney, and if so, are you a member of any state bar?
I am not.
Do you have any other licenses, though, that you have to maintain?
I do not.
Okay. Do you or does any member of your immediate family have any interest, financial or otherwise, that may directly or indirectly pose a conflict of interest for you in the performance of your duties?
I do not, nor do they.
Do you have any outstanding liabilities for taxes, fees, or other payments to the district, federal, state, or other local government, either contested or uncontested?
I do not.
All right, I'm going to skip the question about your background. I think you and the supportive witnesses have talked about that pretty extensively. I do want to just briefly, if you could, just give us an update give the committee an update on your work at the lab to restore the suspension that was issued at the lab and just sort of where you are with that, just generally.
With the suspension of DNA testing. Yes, so we've made excellent headway on that. The examiners, the analysts are through the training phase, and they're now into the assessment phase. 9 of them have passed a written examination, and we will be starting what are called oral boards, so oral examinations next week. And then after that, those that successfully pass will go on to moot court examinations, and we are working with the United States Attorney's Office with some of the attorneys there to move them through that part of the process. Then a very important step is having the auditing group, ANAB, will return and will review our procedures, our processes, talk to the analyst, and based upon their determination, if we pass that phase, we'll be able to open the laboratory up again.
And you became acting director, and you mentioned it on July 17th of this year, and it really was during a very tumultuous time for the agency. How's morale right now at the agency, and how's the transition been for you and the staff there?
Well, as I mentioned, I have this great staff who they come in every day and we huddle and we talk about things. And so I've done a lot of meetings with all of the staff. I've visited with all the units. We've held all hands meetings. I've been very transparent about where I want to take the agency. I've been very open to having individuals come in and kind of go through what they believed happened with this process and how we got there. And I think through those interactions, it gives me sort of a great deal of insight into morale. And I believe it is on the upswing from everything I can see. We've done a lot of discussion about not just talking about the incredible laboratory that we have, which really was the image of the Department of Forensic Sciences. If you go to earlier presentations over the last couple of years, they show this gorgeous building, but they don't highlight the people inside it. And so one of the first things that LaShawn Beeman did for me was actually help put just a 90-second video together that highlights different employees within the laboratory. And it's a very simple message that, we are DFS. And so it goes with sort of as a Penn Stater, we're all about we are something, right? And so in this instance, that's what I'm channeling, so remind each and every one of them that they actually are representative of the department. Though the building's beautiful, it's the people in it that make it successful. And I think that has helped tremendously build morale and esprit de corps.
You mentioned that you met on 2 occasions with the Science Advisory Board recently, as earlier this month, and you stressed that the department will be transparent. You talked about a new procedure for handling complaints and inquiries. Can you talk more about what you mean when you say you've talked about a new procedure for handling complaints and inquiries?
Yes, so we now embrace any time a group has a concern or individuals have a concern. We actually may receive those in different formats, and we have a policy now to act very quickly to acknowledge that those have come in. And then we have a process by which over a period of there are different timelines associated with it, but we will respond back, acknowledge it. We will do an internal investigation and determine whether this type of inquiry or complaint needs to trigger either a quality corrective action or perhaps some way of improving upon performance. So that actually is a part of our new quality culture. The reason for this, I don't know if you remember, but there was a little bit of confusion when some of the initial concerns about the incidences that were occurring in the DNA laboratory. There was some, confusion, I guess is the best way to say it, about was it a complaint, was it this? Because we have an obligation to advise or provide to the Science Advisory Board any complaint that comes to us. And I don't want that confusion. If somebody's got an issue with us, we need to address it formally, and we will provide that information to the Science Advisory Board as quickly as possible, because their job is to advise us if it's on a technical issue or any other procedural issues that they may believe they have some insight about. So that process now is more formalized, and it is being handled under our quality team. And it allows us to, especially through the corrective action process, it allows us to get to the root cause, put action steps forward, and establish, in essence, some milestones to make sure we address whatever that concern or complaint might be.
And you also talked about recent meetings that you've had with with stakeholders that use the lab. You talked about U.S. Attorney Channing Phillips, Avis Buchanan, Public Defender Service, Attorney General Carl Racine, and others who you've met with recently. How are those relationships going with the stakeholders, particularly U.S. Attorney's Office, sort of given their role?
Yes, well, they've definitely, I believe we've improved those relationships. I embrace that. I enjoy going out and meeting with basically our stakeholders, our customers, and they have given us some very powerful insights as to how, maybe where we can improve, especially in communication on the status of the cases, the quality of the science. It's going to be extremely important that we build those bridges back so that they have confidence in the DNA analysis unit once it turns on again. So I think all of these meetings have gone extremely well. They've been very open and honest, and we've actually want to hear the concerns, the complaints. And so that's what I've spent a lot of these first 100 days doing.
And you also talked about the supplemental budget that added additional funding to the agency to be used to alleviate backlogs and also to provide 31 term positions for crime scene scientists. For the crime scene science division, talk about the backlogs, how that's going, and trying to eliminate it, and then I'll ask you to talk about some of the hiring.
Yes, so each of our units, firearms, fingerprints, DNA, they all are experiencing backlogs. So half of that money will be spent to assist with contractors coming in internally to help in our firearms and fingerprint units. And then we will continue to send cases to a contract laboratory to help us with some of the DNA cases when we first start up. So a good portion of that money will be spent to work down those backlogs, and we will be able to track those cases and the turnaround times on those more efficiently due to our LIMS system.
Is that an additional contract that you have to engage in, or is it an existing contract where you're already working to eliminate the backlog?
So all of those contracts have been put in place very recently. Okay. Mm-hmm. The other half of the money, as we talked about, will be more about the crime scene sciences division and hiring additional term employees to begin to replace officers that are doing that job for the district currently.
Okay, and in terms of the time frame, give me a sense of how long you think it'll take to eliminate the backlog that still exists.
Well, again, my hope is that it may take us throughout the entire year, because some of this, especially with we're actually hoping with the DNA unit to have no backlog when we start them up and try to actually keep that at a zero balance. That's our hope with the DNA unit. As far as the firearms and the fingerprints, one of the issues that I want to make sure is stressed is that the quality of the work continues to be high, and sometimes that affects your efficiency. So that's what we're beginning to look at. With the addition of these new contractors, how will that affect our efficiency, improve our quality? So we certainly should have those backlogs worked down within the year's time.
Okay. And you probably already mentioned this, and if you've already stated it, I apologize for asking again. But in terms of the DNA lab and the suspension, did you give us already a timeline and when you think?
Yes, well, my hope is right now we have the auditing group scheduled to come in early December, so that is my hope.
Okay, and if all goes well, it could be lifted as soon as then?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Synthetic drug testing at the lab, talk about that.
Well, currently we have no capability to do synthetic cannabinoid testing. And we have been in discussions with DEA. They would like us to take on not only that testing, but all of the testing for illegal narcotics here in the district. They've been very kind and have made some great offers of equipment as well as training. And I'm currently carving out positions to create a chemistry unit, a forensic chemistry unit, so that we can do that testing. And we are right now, I believe this week, installing some equipment to make that possible. It's now a matter of hiring some individuals in that would be able to run that particular unit. Best
case scenario, when would you like to have those individuals hired and have that unit stood up?
I think it's probably going to take us a good 6 months probably because it's not only bringing the individuals in, it's establishing protocols, getting them trained, And then we will have to journey towards accreditation of that unit. It will not be immediately accredited. That would take probably another 6 months to accomplish. So, but my plan is to begin to hire those individuals in and make sure we have sufficient funding in the budget to do that with the FY16 budget.
You talked a little bit about this in the with the FY16 supplemental, but the mayor's authorized additional funds for deployment of experienced MPD officers to work at DFS and the crime lab. Why is this important to the lab, and what do you envision? How do you envision this will help the lab?
Yes, so we are eagerly anticipating the legislation that would allow us to hire those officers in and not lose their pensions. I think it's critical, crime scene investigations is one of those areas where if you are able to get individuals with experience, the actual sort of field experience going out there and processing those scenes, that is critical, and I think to maintaining a very professional and skilled workforce. So the district has been served well by many of these individuals. They have this experience, and we would love to bring them into the Crime Scene Sciences Division to boost our talent pool that currently exists there.
How's the LIMS system going? You mentioned that you just implemented it recently. How are things going?
Well, we just started, and it's sort of like we have to feed the beast, as I like to call it. So that's what they're in the process of doing now. It's going through a sort of a test phase where we are also keeping the paper copies of our current tracking system, and it will undergo an audit at the end of its first 30 days to make sure that the information that's being put in is consistent with the current paper-based system that we have. So by all accounts, it's going well. Most of the workforce is trained. We are working with MPD, with their CSID folks, and they will be undergoing the final phase of training.
My final question has to do with the audit with the sexual assault kits. Can you talk about the status of the backlog there and what's being done to address that issue?
Yes, I actually have some numbers if you can.
Sure.
So we started with, or since 2013 through October, we've received about 545 sexual assault kits. 430 of those have been tested. About 115 of those were in, and again, this is from 2013. Some of those were over 90 days old, and the vast majority of the kits have been moved effectively through. We have about 70 that remain to be tested. So what we're trying to do and what we used the contractors for was to move all new sexual assault kits into the lab, out to the contractors, because we didn't want any of those to go over the 90-day limit. So we have about 70 sexual assault kits that are in one state or the other that still need to be tested. But again, as I said, when I opened up the unit, I hope to be pretty much at a zero balance with both reports that need to be written as well as sexual assault kits going out of the lab.
Any concerns, though, in terms of the ability to get those back and turn those around? The contractor, is everything going the way you like it to be going right now, all things considered?
Yes, I think all things considered. We initially worked with just one contractor. Those were the initial arrangements that were made. We now actually have an IDIQ contract in which we have 3 companies working with us. So between those 3 companies, getting the unit worked up, we will meet that deadline.
I do not have any additional questions at this time, Dr. Smith. Is there anything else you'd like to add to the record?
No, just thank you very much for the support that you've given us and the council, and I really look forward to working with you.
Likewise. Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
testimony. Take care.